Hi everyone, Vicky here, and welcome to Foods That Heal interview series where we explore the power of food and show you how to eat in order to live a healthier and longer life. And today it's the last interview of this series, so I thought it would be a good idea to talk about toxicity and GMOs, so the source of toxin, the effect on the body, and also the effect of GMO on our health. So to have that discussion, I have invited the very knowledgeable Dr. Grace Mankowski. Hi, Dr.
Hi. How are you, Vicky?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. Thank you so much for inviting me to your awesome series.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here. So Dr. Grace is a chemist, a herbalist, a chiropractor, and she has a degree in human biology. She learned indigenous healing from several indigenous teachers, and she has over 20 years of career and experience, and she has studied the effect of toxin on the human body. She has designed over thousands of custom detoxification program and fertility program for her patient. So again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then when we think about toxicity, we often think about metals and specifically heavy metals. So can you explain what are those heavy metals?
Okay, Vicky. Heavy metals are basically toxic metals. They include, for example, mercury, lead, cadmium, arsenic. I also tend to look at aluminum, zinc, and copper. And as they accumulate in the body, they become toxic to our health. So it's very important to monitor them. For example, mercury shouldn't be in the body at all. So if you can have mercury or lead, it is basically detrimental to the child or the fetus.
Okay. And what are the source of those heavy metals?
That's a good question. For example, mercury can be found, I'll just go through some of the main ones.
Sure.
So mercury could be found in thermometers, in fish, it could be found in dental amalgams. And so as the amalgam breaks down, basically what ends up happening is the mercury starts leaching into our body.
And that's not good.
No, not at all. And so then there's aluminum. So that aluminum also is like in antacids, lipstick sometimes, processed food, dentures, buffered aspirins. So Alzheimer's is also responsible for plaquing the brain, and there are research showing that it is linked to Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. And also there's aluminum salts in our antiperspirant, which is being linked to breast cancer. So that's very important to also know. Lead, for example, is in gasoline. In old homes, it's found in lead paint. Once again, a lot of the Eastern European countries, the women and men have high levels of lead. So I don't know why that particular part of the world, but it's very prevalent there. So that's just to name a few. But what ends up happening with these heavy metals in your body is they can suppress your immune system, basically affect your brain, your digestion. Children who have autism, ADHD, ADD, should check their children for these heavy metals, because chances are they have one or a few, especially cancer patients as well. All the syndromes, Lyme's disease, MS. So these are very important things to check because they're having quite a big effect on our health lately.
Did you say Lyme's disease?
Yeah, there's a component of heavy metal toxicity there as well.
Oh, wow. Okay. Didn't know that. And the question that comes to mind, when we wrap our food with aluminum foil, does that affect?
Yes, of course it does. So that's another toxic thing we shouldn't be doing. Oh. And I also say that certain professions tend to have more of these kind of problems than others. For example, miners, welders, construction workers, people who work in salons, cleaning ladies, chemists. So these are types of professions where they should be checked on a regular basis because they're constantly getting accumulation of toxicity.
Okay. So it affects pretty much everybody. So I can imagine that if someone is pregnant, it affects very badly the pregnancy, right?
Of course it does. And there are 2 points I want to make that are really important. The first one being that the mother actually passes those toxins in utero to the fetus. And if the fetus makes it, because a lot of times they'll have a miscarriage, and if the fetus makes it, it will already be starting with poorer health to begin with. And so toxins act as basically fat-soluble toxins, so they stay in a human's fat in order to protect the body. Because if these toxins went into the organs, you'd be sick very quickly. So the fat here, in a way, is a good thing because it actually protects you from getting sick faster.
The fat, okay.
Because the toxins lodge in the fat many times.
Okay. So another question that I have is, can this, and if you don't know, it's fine, but can this affect autism? If the mom is exposed to a lot of heavy metal, can it affect or increase the chance of the child having autism?
I've actually seen research papers that are showing that autistic children also have some sort of heavy metal. So it really does do a number on our health for sure. And it's something that we all should be aware of and pay attention to. From my experience, the allopathic side of medicine really doesn't pay attention to it. So it's something that's not looked at prevalently on that side of the spectrum.
Okay, so for people, just coming back to women who want to be pregnant or are pregnant, so how can they detoxify their body, or when they should do it?
Well, before you get pregnant, I believe that you should start as early as possible.
Okay.
Start people off a minimum of 120 days before they're trying to conceive. And I also look at both the male and the female, which I don't leave the males out of the equation because a lot of them are having issues now too, toxicity that's occurring. And it's very important to make sure that because women are getting pregnant at an older age, that they're also like taking enough folic acid, that they're also taking zinc, because zinc is actually a very important mineral for people's fertility. And especially if the men have low spermogenesis, they should be on zinc right away.
Okay. I remember when I was trying to get pregnant, I started taking folic acid like 2 years prior to getting pregnant. And the doctor asked me, do you take enough folic acid? And I said, well, I've been taking it for 2 years. And I don't know if it's enough. But they were like, okay, you're good. It's fine.
The reason they're saying that is because they're trying to prevent neural defects in the first trimester, which is when they mostly occur.
Yeah. So it's good to be on the preventive side, I guess.
Exactly.
So the toxin or those heavy metal, it's pretty much anywhere in the food.
In the food we eat, the water we drink, the air we breathe, it is everywhere. And it is becoming a very big crisis. And I think that this should be focused on because a lot of people just go about their life and really don't pay attention to what they're doing. They're feeding their children aspartame, which, for example, is a neurotoxin. It's found in chips, it's found in candies, it's basically being put in everywhere without us even realizing it. It comes under different names. Also, BPA is a big problem with bisphenylaniline, and that's really it's in hard plastics, so a lot of people drinking water bottles, basically it's a hormone disruptor. So it introduces imbalances in the hormones. So like if you're drinking out of a water bottle every day and drinking 12 or 8 bottles a day, like could you imagine what it's doing to your health? And I think that's very important to bring into focus because a lot of people look at water bottles and water as something healthy, but don't really see that there's detriments of doing that. So when women are pregnant, I also look at their, trying to get pregnant, excuse me, I also look at their water sources and get them to drink filtered water, probably put it in glass bottles and keep it around, as opposed to drinking out of plastic or putting your food in Tupperware, microwaving it. Like, all this is really causing a lot of problems that we have to be aware of.
But I thought BPA was banned in Canada since 2012. Is that correct?
It is banned in certain countries, and in others it isn't.
Okay.
And then also, I would say that another problem is in Canada, we also don't label GMOs. So really, we're eating them or not. And that's one of the problems that I think as the next generation is coming up, that I would like them to at least put pressure on the government, or even our generation to put pressure on the government to basically allow us to know what we're eating and have it more transparent.
Mm. So how do we know when there's some heavy metal in the thing that not only that we eat, but the like the plastic container, for example? How do we recognize that there are heavy metals in those? Is there a code, or is there something that we can look for?
There's tests that can be done. Like there's ways of telling. For example, there's mineral hair analysis, which will show you the amount of toxicity that you have. If you go to a functional medicine doctor or anti-aging doctor, they'll also run tests for these types of heavy metals. There's also codes, like the stickers on the food called PLU codes. When you buy a vegetable or a fruit, you have those stickers that have barcodes. It says like grown in Mexico or whatever. The first number on these codes is actually for us, the consumer. So if it's a 5-digit code and it starts with a 9, it's grown organically. If it starts with the 8 and it's a 5-digit number, it's actually a GMO food. So that I wouldn't even touch. Okay, I refer to them as Franken foods, and I'll tell you that why later. But so when it's a 4-digit code and it starts with a 4 or a 3, that means it's grown conventionally with herbicides and pesticides.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that gives us an idea of what we're buying, at least.
So let's say on the banana, there's a little sticker, and then there's a code on it. And you're talking about that code?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go and get a banana because I want to see. Hold on. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, so here I have an apple banana. My son loves those. And it says 4233.
Okay, so it has 4 digits.
Yeah.
And it starts with a 4, which means it's grown with herbicides and pesticides.
Oh, so it's not good.
Well, I mean, we can make better choices when we're more educated. It's not.
Okay.
But I mean, we can't always buy everything organic. That's the reality. So I guess that's better than GMO.
Okay. Well, at least I got that part right. All right. So are there any food supplement or something that we can take to detoxify the body?
Yes, there are supplements that we could take every day, or a combination of them. For example, chlorophyll will actually detox the body. Drinking a lemon with warm water in the morning, first thing you do. Orange.
I do that.
Oh, awesome. Orange pectin or apple pectin. Cilantro detoxifies. The herb, let's say milk thistle, will detoxify the liver. Broccoli sprouts actually detoxify as well. So we could do a combination of those every day and work on it every day. When I'm talking about therapy or something more dramatic like that, I would do it for people who like have like high levels of the four heavy metals that are really dangerous, you know. But on a daily basis, we could start doing that, and I would advise to do that every day because that's a good preventative measure.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's never too late. If you start now, it's okay as long as you start, correct?
Exactly. And I think it's very smart to do that because, as you know, these toxins are found everywhere. We're kind of like trying to win the battle against something that's becoming a bigger and bigger animal that we have to deal with.
Okay, awesome. And let's talk about GMOs for a second.
Okay.
So what are the genetically, sorry, my French.
Better than mine.
Genetically modified foods. What are they?
Okay, so genetically modified foods are produced from animals or plants whose DNA has been altered by genetic engineering. And so, for example, they might take a plant and splice in a microbe, a plant or an animal DNA into the plant genome, and basically try to produce a plant that has properties that are not found in nature. For example, the plant will then act as a herbicide, or it will act as a repellent for insects. And they're even talking, I even read some papers about them talking about splicing medication into the food. So now you don't take your meds, you'll eat a tomato with your meds in it.
Oh, that's bad.
Yeah, it's getting a little bit out of control. And these were invented, I think, to have, say that they were invented to have higher yields of crops. But the research shows that the crop yields are actually smaller than what we used to have. The idea was to do this so that a bigger population, a part of the population could be fed. As a chemist, it's really scary to me, and that's why I refer to them as Franken foods, because once we mix with Mother Nature, there is no going back. So basically, it started in the 90s, and we're kind of like the living experiment of what GMOs are. And if you listen to the elder generation, like our parents' generation, they're saying that when they were younger, they never heard of cancer. They can't even believe how much it went up. And I do believe that GMOs are a contributing factor to this problem.
Okay. So what are the effects? You talked a little bit about those, but what are the main effect of GMO on our health?
Basically, it messes with our immune system. It decreases our digestion, gives us not the ability not to think as clearly. So there are big effects of GMOs, and more research is coming out. Naturalnews.com just reported that like 45% of heart attacks and diabetes are actually contributing to from bad diet. And they said that also mental health has increased 50% in the last 3 years. So these are numbers that are really scary and are increasing at a rapid rate.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So what can we do about it? You talked about the PLU code, which is great. I had no idea about that. But is there anything else that we can look for or do in order to reduce the effect of GMO? Because I imagine we consume so many GMOs and genetically modified food without even knowing. So I imagine the effect on our body already started. So how can we stop or reduce those effects?
That's an awesome question. I think that we have to really start voting with our dollars, demanding better food, not junk food that's cheap, because cheap food has a lot of GMOs, a lot of chemicals. We, the consumers, have to start kind of standing up for our rights. And the only way we can do that at this point is to vote with our dollars. Buy food, eat more whole foods, whole grains, omega-3s, good fats, avocados, seeds, fruit, vegetables, things like that. And get away from purchasing farmed foods like, like salmon, where they're giving a lot of antibiotics to this in vats that are enclosed. And like just making smarter choices, like with the water, with the foods we put in our body. And if everyone started to become more consciously aware, we could change these things. And I think that's why your series is pertinent to doing something like that. And your series might affect millions of people eventually, slowly, or very quickly. And this is what's amazing about this series, because we're bringing awareness, and that's where it has to start. Like Fukushima is still leaking out a lot of radioactive material into the water supply. This is like, to me, like an emergency world kind of tragedy, yet no one's really doing anything about it as far as I know. Like, I mean, it just keeps leaking this material into the ocean. And David Wolf on his website actually showed how the fish and the whales have huge tumors. They cut those off and feed that to us, because I've seen documentaries where stuff like that is done. And so, I mean, yeah, if you had the choice, I don't think you'd be eating that.
No, if you knew about it.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I think we have to get away from chasing money so much and profit margins and really start thinking about us as a species long term. And that's kind of the message, because we're really like making something so bad that it's getting to the point where 20-year-olds can't get pregnant anymore, have to have IVF or fertility, go into fertility programs. These things are a little bit out of control already. And if it gets any worse, I'm really afraid there might be a point where we can't go back.
That's a good point. And one thing I want to mention too is if you buy something and it says no GMO or no BPA in it, it doesn't really mean that there's none, because I'm going to give you an example of something that happened yesterday. I wanted to buy a little plate or whatever bowl for my son, and it said on the wrapping, it said no BPA in it. So I was like, oh, okay, great. And then we opened it up, and then my husband looked at the back, and it had the code 7 under. So he said, what does the code 7 mean? I'm like, I don't know. So we Googled it, and it's a type of BPA that is in there. And then we said, but BPAs have been, banned in Canada since 2012. And then when we looked at the year it was made and fabricated, it was 2010. But they're still selling it.
Yeah, and like I mentioned before, GMOs don't really have to be labeled on the labels in Canada. So it's like kind of marketing, and that's what I don't appreciate, because if I'm buying something and I'm trying to be conscious about it, I don't want to be tricked in the meantime. Like, you know what I mean? So that's where I think as Canadians, we should really be pushing for clear labeling of foods, because we should know transparently what we're eating. And we should have the right to vote and with our dollars, or make a conscious choice for our health and the health of our children. And the reason I got into studying GMOs and heavy metal toxicity is because when I came back from school in the States, basically both my parents were very ill. And so I started looking at what is going on, because it wasn't making sense, all their symptoms. And so a thing I want to really bring attention to is breast implants, as well as aluminum salts in deodorants. I went to Whole Foods and I found this rock that basically said, oh, this is a natural antiperspirant, right? Take a closer look at it, it's all aluminum. And I was like, oh my God. Like, so that's the stuff that is really tricky and frustrating. And then with breast implants, when I was in school, we had this patient who had all these bizarre symptoms, and I couldn't really get to the bottom of it. And I was a clinician assistant at the time, so I went to some of the teachers, and one of the teachers said, Grace, that sounds like silicone poisoning. And so I went into the library and did the research, and sure enough, it was. So even though like silicone can be a neurotoxin, and some women have horrible sickness after they put these breast implants in. So that's another thing I wanted to bring attention to, because some people don't even know that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So a lot of people are now wondering after watching this. They're not wondering like, how can I know if I like my level of toxicity in my body? So you do have a free gift for the audience so they can test it. So let me give you a mic and talk about what your free gift is.
Okay, so the free gift is basically a questionnaire. And it basically, if you look at all the symptoms, it kind of helps you rate whether you have it or not, like from not so much to really severe. And also it teaches you what the symptoms of toxicity are. And it also will give you an idea whether you're really high on the toxic spectrum or not so bad. So if you're really high, you could find a practitioner that could work with you and help you delete or eliminate these heavy metals and work towards providing yourself with better health. And for women who are trying to get pregnant, I really encourage if you're overweight to like lose the some of the fat, because you could be storing toxicity to basically make sure that you're not toxic and be responsible right from the start, because being a good parent, I think, starts from before you become pregnant by making sure that your body is strong and able to produce this child in a responsible and ethical, like, ways so that it has good health also.
Awesome. So the free gift is in the email you receive with this video. There's the link there. Just click on it. Just do the questionnaire and take it from there. Dr. Grace, it was a pleasure having you today. One last word.
Sure. Like you mentioned that I've studied with Indigenous, and so I kind of want to say something along that line. Yeah. The Indigenous really respect and honor their elders. We put them kind of in retirement homes and tuck them away. And it's kind of sad because our children are not learning the wisdom of the elders, and Indigenous people, really go and learn from that wisdom, okay? And in that wisdom that they're teaching, they also talk about how to preserve the water, plants, water, earth, how to have respect for these things. They will never kill an animal without putting tobacco on the ground to honor that the spirit giving its life up. And so, like, there's honoring and a respect that we have lost for Mother Earth, food, the air, and I really want people to start thinking about that, and that's the big message to take home. We should all work at it individually, and together we'll make a huge difference.
Thank you. So respect nature, Mother Nature. Thank you so much. So everybody at home, it was a pleasure doing this series for you guys. I hope you did learn a lot throughout the series. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you again, Dr. Grace, for today's interview, and thank you all of the speakers who took their time and brought awareness to you on how foods heal. So on that note, take care, be healthy, and I'll see you definitely next time, because there will be a next time. So thank you so much, and have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.